Okay, and we're live. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Modern Enterprise Architecture Meetup, brought to you by FromHereOn. Today's topic is decision making for modern enterprise architects, cutting through complexity. So, good afternoon to those of you in Australia and New Zealand, and good morning to our early risers tuning in from UK and Europe. So please take a moment to introduce yourself in the comments and let us know where you're watching us from today. I'm Jana Martins, talent and community lead here at From Here On, and I'll be your host for today, as usual, I guess. This session tackles one of the hardest parts of architect's role, making confident decisions in face of ambiguity, politics, and competing priorities. Technical knowledge matters, but what really separates effective architects is how they shape decision, build trust, and enable outcomes. So today, Peter, Jean-Michel, and Jerome will share sharp practical insight into the people side of architectural decision-making. And as usual, please expect some real-world stories, practical techniques, and fresh perspective you can apply, hopefully, immediately. So as always, we encourage you to participate, share your thoughts, questions, or just quick hello in the comments. So you can comment on LinkedIn and YouTube. We're going live on both channels. And this is a space for architects, leaders to connect, exchange ideas, and grow as a community. So we also have some face-to-face events coming up. I'll tell about it at the end of our stream. So it's time to hand over to our speakers to introduce themselves. Please, Peter, we'll start with you.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Jana. My name's Peter Stocko. I've had over 20 years experience in the tech industry across lots of different industries, and I really get a buzz out of helping organizations grow in the value that they deliver, whether that be through internal efficiencies or customer value directly. And I really love working collaboratively with colleagues to understand problems and develop solutions. And I think a large part of our jobs as architects is to provide options and provide real trade-offs, and look forward to talking about more of this later.
Perfect. Jean-Michel, over to you.
Thank you, Jana. Peter, Jerome, always good to be on the camera with you both. My name's Jean-Michel Charette. Similar to Peter, I've got a few years of experience internationally and in Australia. I am extremely passionate about simplifying complexity, whether it's technology, process, people, or cultural. It does get me excited and happy to come in on Monday mornings. So I will let Jerome to introduce himself next.
Hi, team. Hello, my name is Jerome, and working from home too. And what I like in life at work is helping organization and people make smarter decisions, and timely decision too. And yeah, like the others, I'm a bit new in the business, so I'd be happy to talk to you about how I find it. So let's talk. Do you have some numbers to share with us, Jana?
Yes, before we dive into topic today, I want to just quickly share the results of our LinkedIn poll last week. And also, if you didn't vote on our beautiful poll, make sure to drop in the comments right now. What do you think what is number one day-to-day decision-making headache in enterprise architecture? So you can see that the majority of people who voted last week says no clear decision process. Endless meetings, I guess, get 26% as well, but there's definitely some common pain points that people agree. And clear these challenges resonate across communities. So, Jerome, what do you think? What's resonated with you the most?
That's the one. I think I voted on this one. So yeah, no clear decision process. But it's kind of we put all the four, and so I'm kind of surprised that we don't have much more poor prioritization, because there's a lot of heat on prioritization. So I'm a bit surprised by that actually. But yeah, we put here on the survey four typical headaches and four things we are seeing all the time in any architecture engagement across Australia and the world. So I think not too much surprised that the process seems to be the problem, but it's usually the symptom. It's not the cause. The reason we put that survey out, actually, and that's the topic of the day, it's about decision making, because many people think architecture is about making diagram. Yes, there's a point where people make diagram. Yeah, I admit that. Now, all these diagrams have got one job to do, is actually help people make decisions. So if there's no decision at the end, all the diagram, the model, everything, that doesn't exist. So the real question is sometimes now how to do the architecture, but for who, when, how, and in which condition to get us to the outcome. And it is so important and so often forgotten that when we redesigned our architecture readiness framework, we've actually completely oriented it around decision making. So we measure what's a good architecture, not to say you're mature or not mature, but we're saying, can you enable the right decision at the right moment for your organization? And that's what matters. So this is a big topic. So to kind of get it real for you, we've picked 3 critical moments that we're going to get today. One is the investment planning, like this is the typical roadmap moment. One around option shaping, because stakeholders never disagree on options, we know that. And the third one is going to be the very heated innovation debate, pretty topical these days. So for that talk, I'm going to hand over, starting with investment planning, by my friend Jean-Michel. Jean-Michel, it's up to you.
Merci, Jerome. Un plaisir. All right, just linking back to the survey, I actually took the underdog at 13%, and we're going to see why about the prioritization. This is a topic that I'm quite passionate about. I know there's a number of people on this call, on this webinar that I've actually worked with, and they'll probably smile as I go through some of these examples, but without telling too much, obviously. Let's be honest, as architects and even as practitioners, because I'm conscious that not only architects are listening to this, we deal with silos, pet projects, and personal agendas all the time. And the problem is not that we don't have enough technology options. In fact, there's probably too many. But the real problem is getting decisions lined up with the business outcomes. And too often, it's not the best idea that gets up the ground. It's often the loudest voice in the room. And the loudest voice in the room doesn't mean the screaming in meeting rooms. It's often the one that knows more about the business problems, the challenges in the operations, or the alignment to the business strategy, as well as technology insights. I've seen this plays out across a number of industries, and the pattern is originally I had always the same, but it's not always, it's often. And in some recent work, I went into the field and studied operational inefficiencies firsthand with the business. And we're not talking technology here, right? So what I've observed is that the productivity was being lost daily, in fact, by the minute. And when you looked closely, it wasn't because the people weren't trying hard enough. In fact, they're the best in their trade. But it was because the tools, the processes, the paper, and some of the equipment that they were using just weren't working for them. And to me, it was clear that there was no clear solution in place, just a lot of pain and unrealized gains for the operations and for the broader business. And here's the thing, the business already knew about those inefficiencies. They've known for years, they've tried to solve some of those challenges and been successful in many examples and not most of the examples. But the business already knew about additional inefficiencies, and there were obviously inadequate solutions in place to address those. instead of having a coordinated approach, different pockets of the organization went off and did their own things, and vendors came in promising their product could solve everything. And for a while, it looked convincing. And then they even, trialed, and it actually did the thing. But what eventually happened is that cost blew out. The tools did not integrate. The solution didn't scale. Cybersecurity risk increased and were discovered. And sometimes the products, in many cases, stopped existing. And we've seen a number of those. And we will see more and more with the emergence of, obviously, the AI helping to accelerate some of the solutions into the market. I've worked with several organizations where digitizing manual process had already been tried, and in every case, there was no shortage of effort. And even some had early wins, and sometimes, and we'll see with Jerome, that it paved the way for innovative approach, and we got to be thankful of that, and it is a good thing. But each part of the business picking their own technology, it's probably not the way to do it. But in some cases, it is the way to do it. And we will cover that probably in another live stream, but I'm not saying that having multiple technology doing the same thing in an organization is not the right thing. What I want to highlight here is that some of the solutions that the business have picked or chosen to do their work had inefficiencies and didn't cover most of the process, and mostly gave the user a clunky experience. The results is you cannot scale these solutions, and you cannot capitalize on them as well for that particular problem. And it just didn't deliver to the business imperatives. Now, here's the contrast. Other organizations, recent experience as well, facing the exact same challenge. And now I want to emphasize on exactly the same challenge, same process, different industry, but related, and similar processes. They made a shift. They didn't pitch it as a technology transformation or a digital transformation. They pitched it as a business value initiative. It was about improving the operation, capturing the right information, and delivering shareholder value. And what we've done on that program was to bring the end users, the customers and the customers' customers, as well as everyone in the business, including the information technology, onto the journey. We kept the focus on productivity, resilience, and the user experience, which is also a soft spot for me, and then work with the technology team to make it happen. And the outcome? Well, I'm not going to give the number, but I'm just going to say this. It starts at $100 million and more a year in benefits. And that can be explained and described in many fashions, in many ways. If you're in oil and gas, it's the number of barrels. If you're in mining, it's the number of tons that you put on ships. And depending on the industry, it can be articulated in many ways, either savings or more productivity. The difference was the shift for that organization from technology preferences to business outcome. And then when you start talking about the business outcome, you look at the problem and the opportunity from a different lens. And you're not biased into what the vendors or the suppliers are pitching at the organization, and often ends into a solution that meets the business objectives. The way I see this is my playbook is 3 core moves. The first one is value over vanity. So you anchor yourself to strategy. And when I'm saying strategy, IT strategy is great. It's more about the business strategy. What outcome does this deliver? So for your customer, your customer's customers, for the operations, and for the shareholders. If it's not tied to productivity, resilience, compliance, value creation in oil and gas or mining, safety, then it's probably just a vanity project, maybe. The second core move in my playbook is to make the trade-offs tangible. It's showing the portfolio picture. So every silo thinks their project is the most important thing, and that's okay, and that's true in the silos. But when you put everything on a portfolio board and score against outcomes, business outcomes, the trade-offs are right there in the open, and it becomes a conversation based on insights and real data. It changes the conversation from my project to our enterprise portfolio, right? And the third one, lastly, is to create exit ramps, right? So how can you get out of jail sort of thing? And I use the not now, maybe later. And let's be real, pet projects can be politically sensitive. So don't kill them, sequence them. Not now, maybe later. Or change the word maybe later, but not now, later. And find a reason why later if you're not seeing the immediate value and the return the organization can get based on the imperatives. That way, relationships are preserved, but the organization stays aligned. So here's the point. Investment planning isn't about finding the best technology. It's about aligning to strategy. It's about managing trade-offs and unlocking real business value. And the lesson I've gained from the industry is clear. When we shift the conversation to enterprise or business outcomes, growth, productivity, resilience, compliance, shareholder value, we stop being seen as the technical gatekeepers. We become trusted enablers for growth. On that note, and I can talk about this for days on, but I am conscious that I've got extraordinary colleagues who also have their view to share on the topic today. Peter, how about you take this on and, link it back to the voice in the room?
Thank you, Jean-Michel. That was amazing. I will try and do that justice for you. And I love the references you had there to value and vanity, and trade-offs are tangible. And I'm going to really talk a lot about that in mine, where I talk a bit about the actual process of options shaping and some practical takeaways. And I'm going to explore a little bit why decisions get stalled and just share some takeaways around what I've learned in my experience. So, we've all been there sitting around a room. We've got 10 people in the room, and there's people from cyber, there's people from the business, there's people from development, there's people from engineering, and the decision should take 30 minutes, but we're still doing that meeting 5 meetings later. We've got about 5 Slack threads, and we've got about 15 emails back and forth, and there's still no clear decision. Or worse, it gets escalated up the chain and comes back down again with no better clarity. Maybe the question itself wasn't clear. What was the link to value or business value? And it's interesting to reflect on what is the cost of those decisions, because and I'm not sure it's a metric. It's not a metric that I've seen captured a lot in organizations, but it would be interesting to capture it, because not every decision needs the same amount of due diligence. If you're making a decision at a code level change about adding a new library into a single module that's pretty isolated, then you don't really need multiple decisions. Maybe you don't even need to go to an architecture board or a review board. You can just make that within the constraints of that domain. But if it touches multiple modules, multiple technologies, has multiple impacts to the business, then place a bit more due diligence. But interesting to look at the cost of the decision. Another
We should ask audience, Peter, if anyone measured cost of the decision in their organization.
Absolutely.
So, guys, if you find a way, drop in the notes, drop in the comments.
Thanks, Jana. Absolutely, yeah. Another impact of slow decisions is teams end up paralyzed. They feel unmotivated or demotivated because they can't progress, right? They can't deliver value. And sometimes we don't even really know what the decision process is or who has the authority to make that decision. In a recent role, I was accountable for the architecture of migration to a new payment provider. And a project was kicked off to consolidate all payments across multiple channels into a single payment gateway. The business case looked great on paper, consolidate on a single platform, remove siloed integrations, simplify the refund process across channels, but no architecture had been involved in the business case stage. And a core assumption of the business case was that we cut operational costs significantly because the overall rate we were paying per transaction would be lower. So by the time architecture got involved, project was already in flight and there was quite a bit of pressure to keep going, keep delivering, deliver the project. However, through understanding, through getting a better understanding with the people that were doing the work, understanding the real commercial impact, working with procurement, working with the vendors, we were able to understand the real costs of this project and this initiative. And we were able to develop some alternative options and approaches, because if we had proceeded down the original path, the business case may not have held up. So we ended up going down a path of, instead of an all-in-one payment gateway, we looked at a hybrid approach, right, where we consolidate where it made sense, but maintain direct connectivity where it didn't. Right? So it gave us the benefits of the simplification, but avoided like the undermining of the economics, I suppose. So a couple of takeaways from that for me was try and you need to get involved as early as possible in the decision, and that's something architecture can really play a big role in. Plus the value of proper options analysis, bringing reliable data, surfacing the trade-offs, trusting the people closest to the decision to pick the right path forward. And if you don't do that, often it is the loudest voice that wins, or it is the pet project, or it is an assumption that gets made somewhere. So start with another thing to think about: what else can we do, right? What else can we do about these to make decisions more straightforward? And one key thing to do is to start with the question we need to answer. Instead of there is a cool new product, an AI-powered search we could use on our website, ask, what's the question you're asking? What's the problem that you need to be solved? What's the business value that we think is going to get from this? What's the hypothesis? Start with the what and the why, not the how. Then think about really showing contrasting options. For example, if you have 3 alternative databases to choose for a new technology project or a new project, make sure the differences between them are clear in non-tech language, right? They're not just different variations of the same database, 3 different variations of Postgres that are essentially the same thing. Because, a good question to ask is, would the business outcome or the operating model be different if we picked a different option? Otherwise, they're just nuances. And the business or the decision maker would likely say, why are you even bringing this to me? Just do it, right? Just go ahead and do it. Another thing that's I've found really important is to have a clear process for the decision making. Only push the decision up the chain where it's justified. If it doesn't exist, create it, right? Because if you have a clear process with buy-in, you can escalate when you need to, but you can also empower people within their domain to make their own decisions. Something that drives efficiency and time to value. There is within some guardrails, but we need to establish those. But it drives a lot more efficiency in decision making in an organization. Another opportunity, like decision making, I think, is an opportunity for enterprise architects to shine. Do we keep investing in this platform? Do we have a capability for X functionality? If your EA function is active, you'll already know the product life cycle, right? You already know if it's future fit. You already know some of the trade-offs, and these insights alone can shortcut a bunch of debate. I think this is a real superpower that enterprise architecture can bring to the table, right, to shortcut the decision. Another strategy that I've employed, if nothing is working and it's still gridlock, and you're in that room with 10 people, I've often employed a strategy recently called a pre-mortem, which is, if you're familiar with a post-mortem where you analyze what's gone wrong after a project implementation, this is essentially the opposite of that, where you look at a decision and look at the potential options for that decision and start asking, do a pre-mortem on them. What could go wrong with each option, and what could go right? It just gets people out of the here and now, out of the emotion, out of the loudest voice, out of the frustration, and into thinking about things from a different perspective, from what does this look like in 12 months' time? What is it, those things we're arguing about, maybe in context, looking back outside in, they're not quite as important, right? But if if the second option, if option B requires support at 3 o'clock in the morning, whereas option A doesn't, maybe that's a factor we need to consider into it. But think about it from a different perspective. So when we understand the questions being asked, when we shape the options with clear criteria, and we have data to back that up, the decision feels obvious, and teams can get back to delivering customer value. So thanks for listening, and I will pass over to Jerome.
Yes, Peter, some comment from your pre-op are good, especially if you split the team on one doing what could go right and one doing what could go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you'll get some debate in between. Yeah.
So thank you, Peter. And I think I'm just gonna jump on that one because this is a risk management technique, a traditional risk management technique, and something I learned in the risk management space is we know it's always rational. We always make rational decisions. So all the things you've explained, it's a rational way of thinking. Now, a lot of time, it's not about being rational. And there is no best case for that innovation. Like every time you talk about innovation, help break loose. And the innovation has this very particular flavor because it brings up a lot of uncertainty where people will react with their guts. They won't react with their brain. And a lot of the efforts and a lot of the decision-making process is not going to happen through rational argument, but through emotional management. I'm going to give you an example. And those two, before I get to my example, I'm going to start with these two emotions you need to look for. The number one is excitement. Are you excited by the benefits? So I'm excited by AI. I love AI. I think it's game changing. I so want it. I'm excited. And it's not biasing my mind at all when I talk about it. And then you got fear. Yeah, I'm afraid about AI because it may take my job. It may take my money. It may make everything I love to do redundant. And it may, impact my family. It may take over the world. Who knows? I got that fear. And when these two emotions are at play, you can't quite deal with them. And to get to the rational point where you can sit down and talk about all this uncertainty, you need to acknowledge that emotion. So let me tell you a story of an organization for the list of a couple of people. So Ali, and this is a real case, I did change the name and change at time. So a couple of years ago, Ali, new CEO, joined a business. And she was convinced from the start that AI had the potential to completely revolutionize her industry and her business. And I actually agreed with her. She was right from the start, get-go, and she got it, And Ali came there on board and then say that to everyone. And she met everyone in business, say, AI is going to change the world, AI is going to change the world, AI is going to change the world. Now, the problem is most of the people in the organization were not Ali. So they were not excited about AI. And also Ali was not very clear, because while she was very excited in the boardroom, when she had to talk to the board, every time she was talking about AI, she said, "Oh, but there's a lot of risk. We don't know what's going to happen. There's all these things about data leak and all the stuff." So Ali was sending conflicting instruction to, change the business model now, and but don't take any risk, please, because I don't want to get sacked by the board. And that's your Ali. And so people reacted to that. So Ali hired Luna because Luna was talking about AI in the future, and she knew how to do it. She'd already done crazy thing in the US. And so she hired Luna, and Luna came in business and tried to basically play SpaceX way and start to blow a rocket with the business. Now, the problem for her is most of the people were more like the Bruce at the bottom. So they really didn't care about AI, and they didn't fear about the risk. They just didn't care about change. It was business with people that they have of 25 years, very unionized, people not used to change, not a very, wide view of the world. So Luna was really annoying, telling all this stuff, and they didn't want to talk to her. And then Luna was trying to so she went to IT and talked to the architect, and the architect were Trevor's. A, not excited by AI at all, and B, not introducing new technology, divergence, new risk, new stack, new stuff that's going to be complicated to govern and all these things. And nobody was agreeing with anything. No decision could be made. So while you got a CEO talk, well, and sometimes the opposite, then you had nothing was happening because the air was not in the room and nobody could move forward. Nobody could have a rational decision. People were having a go at each other. Luna was trying to go in the back room to get the stuff happen without telling the Trevor were actively, retaining any information at the business to make sure it doesn't happen. And the Bruce were navigating the confusion, say, yeah, well, why nobody tells us anything, we don't do anything. Now, the only way for you as architect to make the thing happen is going to have to take a position. And as a human being, you probably have to take a position. But as an architect, you're going to have to take a position that may not be your default position, but the position that the organization needs from you as leaders. And that position here on the screen is the sweet spot, is at the middle, but slightly biased toward Luna. And why is that? Now, you need to introduce the future. The people that don't know the future, they won't be able to invent it. So you need Luna more than anything else, but you need to connect her. So if you don't talk a bit like innovation language, Luna is not going to talk to you. She's going to classify you as an instant Trevor, especially if your title is architect, you're a Trevor in most of Luna's people mind. So just go there, make sure you can talk to her by showing her you care and you're excited too. A bit less, because you're not the expert she is, but you can. And then on the risk side, you need also to be a bit more like on the fear side, you need to be a bit more careful. Yes, no, we're not going to open the entire database of the organization on the internet to scrum it to rag it with a tool that's somewhere installed, we don't know where, and it's going to exfiltrate all the data. No, you don't do that, but there is a way forward somewhere. So you're going to just talk that. So you can also talk to the Trevor, talk to the Bruce, and more than importantly, you're going to help Ali deconflict, because you're going to have to help her navigate to say, Ali, that is safe. You can go. I'm backing you up. And Ali, you can't go as fast, and we can't get anyone on board if you go there. So you have to manage that emotion. It's kind of the point. And once you're there, once you acknowledge the emotion, establish the communication channel, and they're passionate that, this is the moment where Jean-Michel and Peter technique will resonate the most. And that's the moment where you can stop talking about emotion and start talking about what do we really know and get to that point. And I think that's kind of the point I was trying to raise there. Jana.
Yeah,
so,
thank you, Jerome. I'm actually curious to hear from our audience if that example does this example resonate with you, and maybe who is a majority in your organization? Is in the organization like a lot of Bruces, Trevors, or a lot of Alice? Maybe send a put a quick comment to us, or maybe who are you? Like, would you think you like Jerome? Are you Ali or you Bruce?
I'm a perfect centrist, like kind of like right center of the maps, but I take position. So at FromHereOn, I'm a top winner because that's what the organization need. And yeah, I'm a chameleon. Yeah. Do you have any question from the attendance?
Yes, guys. So we are happy to take the questions now. We do get a few comments on LinkedIn. People give some examples as well. Frank is saying he loved the idea that not all decisions are equal, and sometimes you spend a lot of time on the wrong decisions. I think it's more, Peter, when you were mentioning the cost of the decisions, just even thinking about that not every decision probably needs as much attention sometimes as we spend on a decision.
I think that's resonated very well with me, that one, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we often spend a lot of time on the little things, sweat over the little things, but sometimes don't sweat enough about the bigger things.
Yeah. John is saying, great topic. What is the reason for the disconnect? The customer or the C-level is living in lower regions of the value maturity model. You can't discuss level 4.
No, you can't. Well, actually, I tend to think that it's about bringing people on the journey, and every organization is going to have its ways. They're not necessarily better because they're more mature, because a lot of time it comes to the leadership. It's sometimes it's less about explaining how it works to be more mature. It's simply about getting it right for that organization and right sizing it.
Yeah. Pratik saying a lot of Alice in his organization, and even one Ali is enough to confuse the vibe.
Pretty much. It's very hard. Well, you've got to help them, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I guess there's a strategy for each character, like how you can.
Yeah, and you have to be genuine. I think there's something I'm not sure I mentioned. You have to be genuine, so you can't fake it. What you believe or what you don't. You have to be genuine with engagement and be curious. That's going to be your best guess. And that works for my fear of success excitement. I think, Jean-Michel, what you're talking about investment as well, like when you're giving enough ramp, you've got to be genuine about that.
Yeah, and Jerome, there's I'm actually going to jump the queue here, Jana, with Matthew saying, if we as architect been avoiding decision making too much, and that comes back to this whole topic, I guess. If every architect would be able to have the tools to link everything back to the investment planning and the business objective, then it's easier to make decisions and get moving. And today I was with a client, and that resonated very well with me, that it's all good to have this strategy and this plan for years. But if we take little step and little components and test all the peripherals and everything works, then we build on that. And this is, to me, is where, as architects, we understand components, and you can simplify complexity quite easily, and linking those components to a business imperative or a business objective makes the conversation much, much easier.
There's a few more questions, comments about your metrics, Jerome. Roberto is saying, interesting metrics relates to the DISC personality type, something I had to learn to successfully engage a variety of people in leadership roles. I think it is really simple it is some parallels with DISC personality, I guess, and how to communicate with the different people.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to be adaptable in your style. This is exactly a good example. Yeah, the DISC framework is a pretty good framework, but whatever framework you use, it's actually understanding the underlying emotions that's going there. It's coming, but as a leader, knowing what are your temptation and bias, and understanding the other's bias will help you connect. Everyone's big bias. I mean, I was in a room with an entire leadership team. We prefaced the whole session by, your ambition is too big. You won't be able to deliver it. And we had an exercise on bias, and we get them to tease them about it. So say, oh, yeah, we got a lot of bias. And then 15 minutes into the conversation, they forgot everything, and they were back again to say, no, I can't give up my project. So it's very strong, and it takes a lot of know-how. So every people that's curious about this type of leadership and behavioral things, that's the type of skill that's going to make you better off as an architect every day, more so than any type of technical or certification in IT.
Yeah. Warwick is saying similar, what you're discussing now, Jerome. EQ is one of the essential skills architects need. Without it, it's difficult to emphasize with others and understand behavioral traits that can influence collaboration and decision-making.
Yeah. And the culture may influence that, because, for example, even this scale of excitement versus fear will change. Like if I'm maybe a Luna in a public service organization, at FromHereOn, I will look at like a Trevor, because by nature we have to innovate, and so that scale may even change in the culture.
Jogan saying also, it's all about gaining the trust and the confidence of your client. And that means that needing the ability to provide and discuss option in a language the individual stakeholder understands. Yep. There's also the comment of like marketing is one of the skills that's sort of disregarded by architects, but could be really useful.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's the famous marketecture. We don't call that marketecture. We call that storytelling.
And we had a great discussion on storytelling a few months ago, and you guys can go to our YouTube channel and watch the replay.
And we think it's not about opposing the thing. It's also a style, and it's okay to be a bit on the engineering style and less in storytelling style. Get a team, get over people with different skills. They can help you. That's a great one as well.
Great discussion, guys. We're really close to the end of our stream. It's already 40 minutes over. Mark had a comment as well about cost debates is when we refocus everyone, teams or executive, on outcomes and the risk of inaction.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, sometimes the risk is the risk of doing nothing.
Well, and there's a cost of doing nothing as well, right? Because you're doing nothing.
Yeah, but nobody's responsible for that one, so that's cool. We know that.
Guys, we probably have a time for one more question if you want to quickly drop it in the comments. And yes, replay will be available. A few people dropping off, but yes, I'll definitely, the replay will be available on both LinkedIn and the YouTube. And while we're waiting for our last question, I guess my last question is just to kind of summarize our today's discussion. If you could leave our audience just with one takeaway, from today's discussion, one tip that they should remember when making decisions in a complex environment, what would be? Jerome, give us your 30 seconds to summarize.
I think, listen, read the room and the emotion. That would be my starting point.
Peter, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with that, Jerome, but I'll add to it and say a laser focus on what the decision is that you're making and the criteria you're assessing it with. What's the outcome you want to get ultimately?
Yeah. What's your deal? Yeah, good one. Yeah.
Jean-Michel?
Jean-Michel?
Yeah.
Yeah, what more to add? I think that taking the people, stakeholders, team, everyone that is involved into whatever endeavor you're working on through the journey. And linking back to Jerome, the last discussion, if you've got these 4 types of personas or personalities, and you take everyone through the journey, you can be in the center, in the nucleus of it all, and facilitate, I guess, a way forward. And using some of the tricks that I've given from the playbook, finding ways to move ahead. Yeah.
Yep, perfect. And to move ahead, I'm gonna make the announcement for the next month. Yes, and as you remember, we're doing these discussions monthly. Next month will be 9th of October, and we're going to talk about career pathways into enterprise architecture. So this session, our consultants Aaron, Sadaf, and Robert will share their journeys into enterprise architecture, their pathways, what they learn along the way, and how their career involved. So because enterprise architecture isn't one size fits all, and some people arrive here from all kind of backgrounds, and sometimes some people don't even know that they already doing enterprise architecture. So there will be a great session to anyone curious about pivoting into architecture roles, or just those who want to better understand the career path. Of course, to get notified, make sure to join our meetup group. We have a meetup groups in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. So make sure to join the correct meetup group, because we also do post some face-to-face events. And we had a lot of fun in Sydney last month doing some networking drinks. And we're planning next one in Melbourne. Last time we had over 100 architects in one bar. So something like this is coming this year too. So stay tuned and make sure to join the group. And of course, follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, or wherever your preferred platform to consume the information. And of course, if you're looking for exciting new opportunity in enterprise architecture or AI architecture, feel free to connect and message me on LinkedIn. If LinkedIn messaging is your thing, you can also reach us via our talent email, which is talent@FromHereOn.com. And I think on this note, we just gonna finish it. There's a few people saying thank you. Love the take on people and joining us. Thank you everyone who comment on LinkedIn. If we didn't reply to some of your comments, we'll make sure we'll take it offline, and we'll see you in October. Thank you, everyone.
I hope we took you on the journey.
Improving our storytelling skills.
Yeah. See that.